So I'm thinking that there's been a little action going on lately. I don't know if you've noticed anything in the news going on.
Well, I mean, I am sitting in the Situation Room, and it's been
Oh,
buzzing.
oh yeah.
It's been
There's a
buzzing.
lot of people behind you. Oh man, this whole thing, this launching shit back and forth between Iran and Israel is crazy, and we just all hope that it turns out the best for the world, including the Iranian people. And I think the Iranian people are the ones who are suffering the most in this whole situation. Uh, Israelis as well, but don't get me wrong. But I think the Iranian people, when I show you some of these shots and videos of their life there and how the current regime, the Islamic regime, uh, is treating their own people, or the people of Iran, I should say,
Mhm.
you're gonna sit there and go, yeah, these people need to be gone, and these people need to be free, because I think deep down, I've heard over the years before, the Iranian people actually really do like the U.S., the people, us here in America. They're very westernized, believe it or not, of most of the Middle Eastern countries.
Mhm.
But their regime is in power has been, putting out the propaganda that they don't like America at all. They hate us, hate the West, they hate Israel, and they want us all gone and disappeared off the planet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't get to scream "Death to America" and then not expect any retaliation. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. But all right. So let's get on into this. Welcome to the Rude Barn Podcast, everyone. Let's get going. All right. So we've got an Iran-Iraq thing we're going to talk about. But first, we want to say, please check out the Etsy store of ours. It's therudebarn.etsy.com. Got some, actually was able to get a little bit more merch up there. There's some new t-shirts I put up. We'll get some more up as we go. Some hats and things like that. And then we also want to do a little quick shout out to our buddies at the Bearded Viking. That's beardedviking.com, right, Rude?
Yep, BritishViking.com. You can go there and you can get your bathtub hooch. It's the best in the West and the East and the North and the South. But yeah,
Clean your soul with some good bathtub hooch.
We just won another award there at
nice.
Stillwater Brew Fest. Yeah, so we clean up over there. So pretty good.
Nice.
So
good booze to be had by all. All right, let's jump right into this. Let's launch a few missiles out of our own and see where we go here. Let's get into this real quick. Let's. This is a little screen TikTok, or I don't know, short here on our good friends at the old YouTubes with Marco Rubio, and he's just talking about the whole thing, how Iran really needs to pull it back a little bit, if you will. So let's hear what he has to say real quick about what happened in the last couple of days.
67 days ago, the President of the United States sent the Iranians a letter, and it said, you're not going to have nuclear weapons. You're not going to have a militarized nuclear program. Let's negotiate. I want to do this diplomatically. I want to do this peacefully. They tried to play him along the way they've played every American president for the last 35 years. And, the president told them, if we don't get a deal, which is what he wanted, then I'll have to handle it differently. And that's what he did last night. He handled it differently. But that was an Iranian choice. We didn't make that choice. They did. By playing games with Donald Trump, they made a huge mistake. And President Trump acted last night. And I think the world today is safer and more stable than it was 24 hours ago.
Interesting,
Where's
right?
the thing, though, too? Yeah, it's very interesting. But you have the fact that he's not a politician. And this is another way that plays in, I think, positive. For us, is that he's not a politician. So you go in there and everything's pretty black and white for him. There's no games. Yeah. There's no there's
beating around the bush.
No strong arm. Yeah, no beating around the bush. And again, I mean, it's kind of how he runs his companies and stuff. And I think that's why he's seen the success that he has.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing too that's nice, and this is the one thing why I like him over Biden or any other politician, is he's not, and he doesn't do things that way, and you just don't know what the hell he's gonna do. And that's what makes him dangerous to the rest of the world and freaks out our good liberal friends here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw I saw a couple videos. I meant to send them to you. I apologize, but of what was it? Obama, Biden, and Kamala all saying that there needed to be a regime change.
Oh,
you know what I
over the
mean?
years. Oh,
Yeah,
and they said the same thing about closing the border and deporting people who were here illegally. too.
Exactly.
FYI,
And-
just a side note there.
Right. So, but as soon as, some action is taken, then, ooh, scary bad man strikes again.
He actually did
Yeah.
what he was going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. Well, here's an interesting thing, and this is, we're going to kind of go back and forth because I don't think any of us are getting the full story. I think we're all getting a little propagandized from both sides, and of course, people on one side are going to believe more so the stuff coming from their side, and same with the other side. They're going to believe more of that stuff and all that. But I think if you sit there and you kind of disseminate what's going on and you look at both things and you think, okay, well, what's going on? Now, Megyn Kelly, I love Megyn Kelly. I think she does a great job and has been reporting on this stuff for years and is pretty damn credible for most of the people. Now she's got her own podcast show and doing great. And she brings up the questions like we have. It's like, okay, really, what's been the motivation over the years? And I've been hemming and hawing about Benny Netanyahu, Bibi, over the last little while because I keep hearing things, hey, he's the greatest supporter of the U.S., but then they're doing things with Mossad and all that to undermine. They're spying on us. They're all this shit, and you're wondering, okay, what the hell is going on with Israel? I want to support them, and I do support them. But I also am questioning them and keeping them kind of at an arm's length because I want to see really what's going on.
Well, and I think that a lot of it's too because of the leverage they have of the amount of oil that we buy, and it's just kind of like I don't know, why there's still games being played and why
Right.
Because I mean we've shown them that we have their back.
Right.
We've shown them that we're not afraid to use muscle, and and this has been before. This has been in the past, and they still want to play these games. And I think that same with them. Like you said, I'm on the fence a little bit. I thought that this was their war to fight, and we shouldn't have got involved. And now we are. And then it's like, okay, well, let's see, kind of where this, if this rolls uphill or downhill.
Yeah, where's this going exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And so Megyn Kelly brings up this little point here, and she shows a couple videos, and we'll kind of run through this stuff. I got a lot of stuff to kind of go through, so I apologize if I'm pushing, but we'll be here for freaking days if we don't. I mean, and I don't want this to be overkill because I start looking at this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting just bombarded with so much stuff.
Yeah, bombarded. Yeah,
pun intended on that one, but making right. I'm just getting bombed left and right with everything here, just missiles flying everywhere. But she brings up some good points. Then this is the stuff that makes you go, what the hell is going on? So let's listen to what she has to say here.
That is real is Bibi Netanyahu is suffering right now when it comes to some large factions of the American people with looking like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, there we
All right.
go.
Now, I'm sorry, but I've been in the news business for 20 years now. And every single one of them, I've heard him say that Iran is months, at most a couple of years away from getting a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Listen to this.
All right, and we pulled a little montage of it over the years. But I mean, we could have gone back to the 1990s with Bibi doing this. Here's just a sampling.
The most dangerous of these regimes is Iran. Only the United States can lead this
96
vital
right here.
international
96.
effort to stop the nuclearization of terrorist states. But the deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
2012.
Here we
By
go.
next
Same thing.
Spring, at most,
Months
by
away,
next summer,
90%.
Wow.
at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
You don't want this Iran to have
neither nuclear weapons
14.
or the capability to make nuclear weapons, to enrich uranium for a nuclear bomb in short order, in a few weeks or a few months. They could do that unless that's changed. With this massive capacity, Iran could make the fuel
15.
for an entire nuclear arsenal, and this in a matter of weeks, once it makes that decision.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and you have to wonder. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I get it. We stop them, and then they get a little bit more, and they build up over the years. So you have to state again. Oh my God! Now they get here close again, and then you stop them, and then so that might be part of it. You know,
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't help when Obama sent them 150 billion with a
yeah.
B. Dollars and money, gold bullion, et cetera, and I think even Biden sent him another $6 billion and so on. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket compared to Obama, but still, it's not a $6 billion. What can you do with $6 billion? Well, you know, probably a little lot there with that.
You know, rich little uranium.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like, you know, what pisses me off is we're funding their whole damn program.
Well, if we
You know?
weren't giving them the freaking money, they wouldn't have the ability to do this, and then we wouldn't have to come in with these bunker busters.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not real rocket surgery here, although they were surgical strikes. You know, but here's a little video you sent that I think is pretty good. Listen to this guy. Doesn't he look like one of the guys from Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
One of those.
That's got to be AI. That hat and glasses. Is
The
not
hat
real.
guy. I mean, it's the guy that's face melts off when the freaking Ark of the Covenant gets opened up or something. But,
Right.
but anyway, let's listen to him because he's got some good points and he's a little on the angry side. But let's check it out.
If Iran had nuclear weapons, as is always alleged, this would not be happening.
Does the German accent help you kind of put the two together with Indiana Jones now, everyone?
Yeah.
Does that put that together? Here, let's listen to more because he's kind of right when you listen to this. Yeah.
Israel would not be attacking Iran. America wouldn't dream of threatening to attack Iran if Iran had nuclear weapons. If I can put it very colloquially,
Oh, please do.
succinctly, nobody will ever attack North Korea. They'll sanction it, they'll isolate it, they'll laugh at it, but they will never, ever attack it. Nobody will ever attack Pyongyang. Nobody will ever bomb Pyongyang because Pyongyang has a government that is bristling with nuclear weapons and has the balls to use them in extremis.
Interesting.
Well,
take
and
there.
that's the difference because I think, you know, again, I mean, since we're using bomb references, you know, you get if they were to have the bomb and the capabilities, they are a loose cannon, you know, and I feel like, you know what I mean, they don't have the structure involved to really kind of, you know, use them how they should be intended to be used. You know what I mean? I mean, they shouldn't be used at all, period.
Right.
You know, we'll make that clear. But
some
at the same
psychopath
time,
usually does.
yeah, but that's the thing. You know, you get a psychopath in there leading this regime, and then you never know what the hell's going to happen, you know?
Well, you know, that's what people think about Trump. He's a psychopath and you never know what he's going to do. And you know what? Sometimes that's a good thing for us and not so good and actually pretty good for everybody else because they're like, this guy could just throw the match on the kerosene here and light shit up. And they don't necessarily want that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So,
well, I think that, you know, I think the rest of the world is pretty confident in knowing that, you know, America is world police. So, you know, anytime anybody has a problem, it's just like, okay, well, let's call these guys because they're not afraid to flex their muscle when they need to, you know?
Yeah. So moving on to this next topic, because it goes right along with what we're saying is like, well, you never know what's going on. And people are like, oh, well, Iran didn't provoke. It was always Israel and all that. It's like,
No.
yes and no, maybe, but who really started it years ago? And And could we point the fingers back at us? And I'll show you a couple of things because we're going to go into a little bit of the history of Iran that I don't think a lot of people know about, which is not what a lot of people are getting right now, which is why we wanted to present it here. Is I don't think people understand how we got to this point.
Yeah, and it is good to understand that, and good to see build up, and then you can kind of make an educated decision or get decision about which side you lie on. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah. So here's a video. This talks about the real Iran, and this is by a gal who I believe she is Iranian. So she probably knows a little bit more what she's talking about than, let's say, you or I do. So here she is talking about what we're not getting in our illustrious, wonderful, incredible media. This is this is this other video. I apologize. So this is the one where this is Iran today. Okay, they're not all walking around in hijabs and burqas and shit like that. I'm going to turn this music down just in case there's copyright issues going on. I mean, they have Christmas decorations in windows. You know, how many Christians are in Iran? I know a lot of Christians are killed by the Shia and the Sunni in many of the more predominant Islamic countries as well. But this is interesting. And it snows. Who knew it snowed in Tehran?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Iran. But this just kind of shows a little bit of the life. I'm going to kind of push my way through here. Look, you could be in Miami right here, for example.
Yeah.
You know, just people sitting on the street. Here's like a coffee house. You go through here. Well, now you can hear with some of the music. So you're definitely not in Miami. But here they are having fun, dancing. You know, I mean, I'm not saying they're all, you know. It's just interesting. I don't think how many people knew this. This is the life.
Well,
very westernized.
Yeah.
You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say. I mean, it just looks like any city in the West, and they look free. People are on their phones. People are pushing babies. You know what I mean? I mean, looks like
you can't speak out against the regime, but you can certainly walk around and shop. Apparently, still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I watched this video. I'm like, holy shit! This is like any city anywhere. You name it, and this could be anywhere. You got a dude rapping.
Nice.
Those Iranian rappers or
rap battles.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, this is the Iran that you don't see. People don't realize. I mean, this is part of Iran. I mean, this is why I feel bad for the people because they're just trying to live their lives, go about doing their things like they're doing right here, and you've got this regime that's keeping them from speaking out when they disagree with what's going on and all that, and it's really interesting. So, how did Iran get to this point? So I'm going to go into a little bit of the history of what happened with Iran here and how we kind of got to this point, because it's kind of fascinating. It makes you like, oh, no wonder they hate the West, because it's interesting. So here, let's check this little video, and I've got a couple of these as well that kind of really show the history. And check it out, because I don't think most people get this unless you actually have studied this, but I found it fascinating to see a lot of this. So here, check all this out.
The English find oil in Khuzestan, which is the southwest corner of Iran. They strike an amazing deal with the rulers of Iran where they'll get 84% concession. Normally, if you're a foreign business extracting a resource from a country, it's a 50-50 split. It's the country's resource, but you did the work. So you get 50%, they get 50%. The British got an 84% concession, and they were giving the Persians just 16% for their oil. And that company was called the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. It got renamed, it became the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. And then it got nationalized, and the Iranians called the new company the National Iranian Oil Company. It still exists. The British then took the remainder of the company, which wasn't entirely in Iran, and they called that piece British Petroleum. That's the birth of BP.
Oh, ever heard of them? Ever heard of them?
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, now that was started all like in the 1900s. I mean, this has been going on for a while. Okay, just so everybody knows, this has been going on for a while. So here's another little piece. I've got several of these, so we'll just try to whip through these, and we'll kind of make comments as we're going through and kind of keep everything moving. So let's try this guy here and see what he's saying as well. And some of it's repeated, but it's good to repeat. I mean, that's how you kind of how you can learn. But this is, I mean, it's really fascinating. You're like, holy shit, is this really what went on? It's like, oh, yeah, this is.
If you've ever wondered why Iran and the United States are such fierce enemies, you have to go back to the 1950s. Now, Iran has tons of oil, and the US and the UK had companies there that would extract a lot of this oil. But in the 1950s, the Iranian people elected a guy who decided to take Iran's oil back. No more for the US and UK. These powerful countries weren't going to let this happen, so they secretly overthrew this president and installed a dictator who immediately opened the oil to keep flowing to the West. This is just one big reason why these two countries are enemies. There's a lot more. We actually published a video on the Iran-Iraq War, which is also a part of this. You can go check that out on the channel.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of the Shah of Iran. If you've ever heard of the Shah of Iran, that is when the U.S. and Britain, but mostly the U.S., put him in to replace the guy that wasn't going to split the oil anymore. And on one hand, you're like, well, yeah, that's bullshit because, hey, you know, we built the oil. You have oil reserves. Yeah, but they only have the 14%. They should have 50% in a normal deal. So you can kind of see how both sides are kind of like, oh, this is bullshit. And the other side, no, this is bullshit and all that. But it just goes on, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so here's some more because I think the history is fascinating. And the more we know, the more we care or something like that. Anyway, but this is really kind of shows more. And we'll get to the point because then we're going to start coming up there. Well, how did Ayatollah Khomeini back in 79 get into power? And we're going to get there. So hang on.
From 1963 to 1977, Iran achieved an annual GDP growth greater than 10%, a truly astounding feat.
That's amazing.
In 1973, the Shah fully nationalized the country's oil industry, to the severe displeasure of Western companies that shared in the spoils.
Right.
In the same year, war broke out between Israel and Egypt and Syria. Outraged by continued Western support for the Israelis, Saudi Arabia led Arab oil-producing nations to proclaim an embargo of oil to the allies of Israel, including the USA. This forced the price of oil to increase by 300% within a year. The Shah was integral in calling for this rise in price.
And that was in the 70s, and I was a very young kid, and I remember the gas lines waiting in. It's like, have you ever gone to Costco to get gas and you had to wait in those lines? Imagine those lines that are all the way back at the Costco being like 10 times as long.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. And they even put it where you could only get gas if your license plate ended in a positive, an even number or odd number. Those are the only days you can get gas.
Go get gas. Yeah. I remember hearing about
really
that.
rash. Oh, yeah. And I was a little kid when that happened, and I remember all that, and that was effed up, you know. And I remember sitting there, and it was hot, the sweltering sun, summertime. You were like, "Oh my God!" Well, parents needed to get gas to get home and to do, you know, get to work and all these things. So, yeah, it was nuts. So here's one more.
This highlights a key yet underrated trend that by the 1970s, the Shah was becoming noticeably independent from the West. This included taking action.
Remember, this is the guy that we put in, who's now separating from us, and you can kind of see what's happening now. So he's now kind of pissing off everybody because I think that one of the next ones shows how he kind of took land from the Iranian people himself for his benefit as well. So he was kind of not a very popular guy after a little while here.
Actions that championed Iran's strategic interests, even if they were at the detriment of his American allies.
Yeah, see, you know, they just put that right in there like that. And here's the next one. That's now we're talking about the coup, the Iranian coup. that we'll show here. All of this history kind of leads up to eventually where we're at and why we're where we are today. And it's
1953 Iran coup was heavily influenced by the control of oil. When Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized Iran's oil industry in 1951, it threatened British interests because they had effectively been controlling Iran's oil through the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, later known as BP. Iran's attempt led Britain to impose economic sanctions, destabilizing Mossadegh's government. The US and UK governments eventually orchestrated a coup to remove the prime minister. The main goal was to maintain Western control over Iranian oil resources and prevent Soviet influence in the region. The coup reinstated the pro-Western Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, which ensued ongoing Western access to oil. The coup is widely seen as a fire starter for anti-Western sentiment in Iran. The 1953 Iran coup.
You're starting to see where things are going here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's one last one. I think it's interesting. Luckily, these are real short, but it kind of gives you a snapshot of this whole thing, of how this all started. And it goes on then, because I have some more of the history of Iran. And then there's some videos I think that everyone should watch. I'll put the links into the description so that you can click on them. And if you have the time and you're willing to kind of really understand more about what's going on now, and why we're doing what we're doing, watch these, because these are great. It's fascinating to see what's happening, and definitely worth the watch, just to understand, just to get your history and the real history. So now here's one more.
As the Industrial Revolution made oil access and production central to the well-being of empires, prospecting for oil attracted ambitious businessmen and explorers who hoped to capitalize on this new need. One such man was William Knox D'Arcy, British-Australian businessman and lawyer who heard the whispers of vast oil reserves to be had in the ancient land of Persia. Although he would never visit Persia himself, he, along with British politician Henry Wolfe and Persian general Antoine Kitabki Khan, would negotiate with Muzaffar ad-Din Shah for oil rights and finance the expedition to locate the rumored oil fields. They would secure these rights in the D'Arcy concession in 1901, and the expedition, led by British geologist George Reynolds, would set out in 1902. After 6 years of costly and often miserable effort, Reynolds was told that the group that sent him was out of money and he was to dismantle everything and come home. Reynolds delayed following these orders and fortunately hit oil several weeks later, leading to the further development of Persian oil fields. As the Industrial Revolution...
Interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. And, I think that, I mean, this is kind of what happens when, I don't know, when everybody's trying to, get over on this natural resource. And this is kind of seeing what happens when, the money from these kind of things get involved, and how ugly it could get.
Well,
and
the greed.
The greed. The greed is just, it runs rampant with everybody involved.
Well, yeah, you'll see how the greed works both ways. It's not just the U.S. and Britain being greedy with Iran's oil. It's the people they put in place got greedy, and then the Shah got greedy with other things. This is the next video I'm going to show you right now. This was a 60 minutes newscast a little bit ago. But yeah, it's like, the guy Mossadegh, or whatever his name was, the guy who we ousted to put the Shah in, was saying, hey, this is bullshit. We should not be giving so much of our oil profits to the West, even though Brits and the US were the ones, mostly Brits, were the ones who were digging for it, and they wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for them. I mean, so it's like, well, you wouldn't have it if we didn't dig it, but you wouldn't have it if it wasn't in our place for you. I mean, it's, you can go back and forth, all the way. Yeah. So we have a coup, we oust the other guy, and we put a guy we thought who was very Western sympathetic to us in place, and then then he does some things and then becomes very unpopular in Iran. And then we're going to lead up to where the Ayatollah Khomeini, the most evil person, dictator who ran Iran for a while from 1979 to 1989 when he died. And then the newest Khomeini, slightly different spelling and pronunciation, is the current guy who's in power right now. And they're both, and they're part of the Islamic revolution, or anyway, they're and it's one interesting thing, because there's one that talks about how they're not actually really Iranian. They're not even Iranian, and they're running Iran. It's very interesting. So that's why they had no problem oppressing their people, or the people. So
that makes sense.
It all gets interesting here. So let's listen to this.
Strong in what sense?
We are controlling many things.
Controlling what?
Newspapers, medias,
Your Majesty.
banks, finances, and I'm going to stop there.
Well, now wait just a second. You really do believe that the Jewish community in the United States is that powerful? They make the media reflect their view of foreign policy?
Yes.
They do not report. We do not report honestly.
Listen to Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't report honestly? No, Mike, you don't, and you haven't for a long time. Isn't it interesting, Mike? Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So here's another one. And this is okay. So this talks about how Iran's Ayatollahs captured power. And all of this kind of goes on a little bit of a timeline. Some of it's out of order. I apologize. But I think this will give a lot of people a better idea of what's kind of been going on and how this all has culminated, over the years into what we've got going on. And this isn't something that's happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or whatever. I mean, this has been going on for over 100 years. So this is not something new. So you can kind of see where, the Ayatollahs in this case are, where they're coming from. And I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying you can kind of understand where they're coming from.
The year was 1979, the date February 1st. It was quite a foggy morning in Tehran, but cutting through that fog, a plane landed at the airport. A chartered Air France flight. Slowly, the plane came to a standstill, and from it emerged a bearded figure. A firm look on his face, a turban over his head, and a black robe trailing behind. The figure was unmistakable. It was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He had returned to Iran after 14 years in exile. He spent that time in Iraq and France, but that Thursday morning, he was back. It's probably the most important day in Iran's modern history. Millions of people turned up to welcome him. They cheered his every move and word. Khomeini would go on to declare an Islamic Republic in Iran. It ended almost 2,500 years of the Persian Empire, not to mention changed West Asia forever. But as historians say, revolution is the easy part. Building a country is much harder. So how did the Ayatollah set about creating modern-day Iran? How was the country's power structure made? Time for a flashback. You cannot understand modern Iran without understanding Khomeini. The country is built in his image. By the 1950s and 60s, he was already popular. His claim to fame? Opposing the Shah of Iran. The Shah was a Western ally. He tried to create a secular and liberal Iran. But Khomeini despised this. His hardline politics eventually got him exiled. In 1964, he moved to Iraq. It was here that Khomeini created the foundations of an Islamic
Why he
state.
was exiled.
But every
By the
state
Shah.
has glue. In democracies, it's the people. In monarchies, it's the royal family. What would that glue be in Iran? Khomeini settled on the Shia Muslim clergy. This concept was called Velayat-e-Faqih, or guardianship of the Islamic jurist.
Okay. I'm going to put the link in for everybody to watch the rest of that because it's fascinating. You're starting to see now that there are a couple motivating factors here. One is oil, and the other one, oddly enough, religion.
Yeah.
So you have the Shia, you have the Sunni, the Shia and the Sunni. They've been factions that have been fighting and butting heads for millennia.
millennia. Yeah.
So you've got one guy who's, didn't they say he was the Sunni? I think was he the Sunni or was he the Shia? In terms of what she said. I don't remember. Anyway, you can go back and check it out. But it's very interesting. So he gets exiled by the Shah because he was opposing the Shah. So the Shah, as the dictator that he is, says, anybody who opposes me, you're gone. And so they kicked him out. And that's when he came back. Then the Shah was kicked out kind of simultaneously, basically. And that's kind of how Khomeini got back into power. The Shah was exiled himself. And so then that's, if you remember the Shah of Iran, look at the history of Shah of Iran, you'll see it. Now we have some of that in here and all that, but we'll have links to it, and it's in all these videos, and it's fascinating to see all of this stuff. But here it kind of shows a little bit of the life before the Ayatollahs and then the life kind of after. And we've got 2 or 3 of these we can go through real quick and check all this out. Here. I don't see any burqas or hijabs, do you?
Right.
This could be America right here. Oh, not this. Well, I mean, interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, what happened? Why would the people vote for that when you had that freedom and you had that ability to kind of do what you want, wear what you want, and just be normal and live like a free human being? So, so this kind of paints a picture of what kind of oppression these people have been living in. And then it also kind of paints a picture of the Ayatollah Khomeini and the new Khomeini guy who's in power now, and how you can't negotiate with these people, and people don't understand that. And I've got a video that shows it from an Iranian gal who's now an attorney. I think she's living in Britain, but she talks about all this stuff, and it's interesting to see that too. You were going to say a comment?
Oh no, it was just about the how, the power, that comes with the, well, I guess the religion that comes with the power really kind of has overtaken all kinds of, like, any kind of democracy that they had or they were working toward, and it just completely shut it out and shut it down.
Well, yeah, because Khomeini really wanted to. He really followed the deep writings of the Quran, where you had the Sharia law. And Sharia law, if you're a woman, I mean, you might as well be. You're lower on the scale than an animal. It's like men,
than a dog,
animals, and then women. I mean, you don't think I'm, telling the truth on that? Go check it out yourself, because that's the way it really is.
Yeah.
And it might be to different degrees in different countries and different practices of it. But for the most part, I mean, you've heard the stories of these women who have shown their hair accidentally or something like that, and then they get beaten, stoned in the streets, or their husband gets to pretty much punish them any way he sees fit. I mean, it is absolutely the most misogynistic type of religious society ever in the world that I've ever heard about. If there's something worse than that, please put it in the comments and let us know, because is that practiced a lot today? That's even worse than the real extremists, Islamic extremists, who really take the Quran for where men can pretty much do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
So, Here's some more of this gal's talking about the violence against women, which is ignored by the media and by the rest of the world. And this is what happens in Iran and other Islamic countries as well. So let's listen to this, because you're going to start getting a picture painted of what these people really are like.
Decrees that the new regime put on was that women had to wear the hijab. It was very clear from the beginning that this dictatorship, this leadership of clerics,
Yeah, so you go from dictator of a royal family, which how the hell were you really ever royal, or you self-declared yourself, in your family years ago as royal, but you go from one dictator to another dictator. Which is the worst dictator?
Yeah.
The Shah seemed to allow you to have a little more freedom, even though he was kind of a dick as well and took some of the land. But would you rather have that than to be a woman and be forced to cover every part of your body and to be subjected to being a subservient to men all the time?
The first thing they wanted to do was to put down women. And they, of course, deducted that from their religion. They said that we want to be different than the West here in Iran.
This is what the religion says.
Yeah. It's not the law, it's the religion. And
it's
that's
the religion.
That's how they're ruling by. And it's sad.
Allah or Muhammad or whoever it is they're going to cite here is telling men that they have the right to subjugate women in such a way. It's utterly disgusting, really. When you look at, and if you're a woman and you think it's okay, I really feel for you. I really do. Because you just
how and why would you want to live like that? You know what I mean? Or take that injustice. It's just ridiculous.
Because I want you to be free. I want you to be able to do what you like. I want you to be able to stand up for yourself and speak, like you do here. Yeah, you don't get to do that there. So,
well, the human rights are just taken right out of the equation.
Yeah, you don't have human rights, and that's the sad thing. It's what a lot of people who hate this country hate America. Oh, really? Well, why did you, as a white liberal woman who hate this country so much, go over live in Iran,
go there.
Iraq,
Qatar, check that out,
or Oman. Or just go see how you like it over there. Well, I wouldn't want to live there. Well, really? Why not? You want to go live in Sweden and say, well, yeah, of course. Well, Sweden's more like America than Oman and Qatar and Iran and Iraq is. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Feel for it. Do you not have any compassion for these women? This is why I feel that the people of Iran are really the ones who have gotten the short end of the stick. Thank God you see some of those videos that looks like anywhere in the world videos, walking in the malls and in the streets and that stuff. Thank God. But if you keep this up and you have this regime that keeps fighting for war to annihilate Israel and death to America and death to all Jews, you're going to have some problems in this nice little world you're living in. Ain't going to be so nice very soon when the bombs come hitting Tehran.
Yeah, when they come back at you.
And nobody wants to do that because you innocent folks. It's the Ayatollahs and the mullahs they want to get out of power, right?
Right, yeah.
So let's listen a little bit.
It's people that take the hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
We are all collateral damage for those in power. So let's listen a little bit more, and I got several more, and we got a few more to get through here.
Islamic Republic, we have morals, we have rules, and we're not as morally down as the West is. So it was also kind of, we are different. And the case of women and the suppression of women is one of the main and central pillars of this whole dictatorship. And so it was there from the beginning. One of the first.
See, yeah, I mean, we're not lying here, people.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Just telling it right there from somebody who's experienced it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just going to show this real quick, but this is a nice little documentary. It's only 17 minutes, a little under 17 minutes long, but it just talks about the whole entire history of Iran from the Persian Empire to the Islamic theocracy. And if you watch this, it definitely
lies a nation that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of religions, and the clash of civilizations for over 2.5 millennia. Iran, known to the ancient world as Persia, of conquest, theocratic, bound upheaval, richness, transformation, cultural richness, and profound upheaval. But how did a nation that once epitomized tolerance and cultural diversity become a theocratic state where morality police patrol the streets? How did the land of Cyrus the Great, who authored the world's first Charter of Human Rights, evolve into a society where religious law governs every aspect of daily life? The answer lies in a complex tapestry of conquest, faith, foreign interference, and revolution that spans centuries. To understand modern Iran, we must journey back to ancient Persia, where one of history's greatest empires emerged from the Iranian plateau. The Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great in 550 BCE, was revolutionary not just in its size but in its approach to governance. Unlike other ancient empires that imposed their culture and religion on conquered peoples, the Persians practiced remarkable tolerance, allowing local customs and beliefs to flourish under their rule. The Persians were followers of Zoroastrianism, a religion that would profoundly influence the Abrahamic faiths that followed. Zoroaster, the prophet who founded this faith, introduced revolutionary concepts that seem remarkably modern today. The struggle between good and evil, free will, divine judgment, heaven and hell, and the worship of a single creator God. These ideas would later find their way into Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, making Zoroastrianism one of history's most influential religions, despite its relatively small number of followers today. For over a
did you know about that?
I did not know about that.
Interesting, right? Zoroastrianism, which spawned Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, kind of the mother of all religions, if you will. I mean, it's just the tolerance, and when you look at it, Persia, I mean, it was tolerant. It allowed people to have different thoughts and different free will, to be able to do what they want. And and then the problem with stuff like that is you get the human element in, and the control that they want to have, and the power that they believe they have, and ruins it. Destroys it.
Again, that comes back to greed. It comes back to greed. It comes back to the wanting, having complete power, and that's when you lose the you lose the democracy, and it falls into regime hands, which want absolute power and will do anything and everything to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's another video I won't get into right now, but I'll put it in the link. It's how the U.S. turned Iran into a dictatorship, and we kind of already saw a little bit of how that worked with the oil and the drilling for oil and the BP thing and everything, and how we ousted the one leader who was really kind of going against us, getting the prophets, and we put the Shah in place, and then the Shah kind of screwed things up after a little while. He exiled Khomeini, and then Khomeini finally came back after 14 years of his exile, and then put the Shah into exile, or made him go into exile. And so this is, again, it, and this happens a lot. And I'm not saying, I love America, I love the U.S., but there are things that our leaders have done over the years, sometimes, a lot of times, and us trying to put people in place that we want, or change a leadership of a country, a nation, or whatever, sometimes backfires on us. And that's kind of what things happened like here in this regard. It kind of backfired on us.
Well, and I think that, if you play that game, and you try to play chess with other people's governments, and and other people's like natural resources and stuff like that, to gain for your own greedy intentions.
Yeah.
Then you kind of got to be expecting some of these kind of fallouts and some of these kind of developments, and then now we have to sit back on and figure out how to fix that again, of which we created.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be a drug dealer and not expect that there's going to be some fight here and there, and gunfire and possible death to you and other people because of what you did. You didn't know that going into it, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah,
and there's no way that we've gone into this going, well, this could horribly backfire on us.
Well, and the problem is though too, you know what I mean? Then we're putting our own people at risk.
Yeah.
We're putting our soldiers at risk. We're putting our allies, people at risk. And then again, we're putting, those the collateral damage, you know what I mean, people at risk as well. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones who have to take the brunt of it.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So here's a clip talking about how Khomeini got into power without even firing a bullet and stuff like that. And he took over Iran, and we've kind of touched on it, but it's kind of good to hear it again and again. So here, check this out here.
One man changed an entire country forever. Meet Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. the face of Iran's 1979 revolution, and the man who shook global politics. Born in 1902 in Khomeini, Iran, Khomeini was a religious scholar deeply influenced by Shia Islam and political philosophy. For decades, he criticized the Shah's regime for its corruption, Western ties, and oppression. In the 1960s, his outspokenness got him exiled, but from abroad, his message only grew louder. Through audio cassettes smuggled into Iran, he inspired millions. Then, in 1979, the unthinkable happened. The Shah fell, and Khomeini returned as a hero. He established the Islamic Republic, blending religion with politics under a system called Wilayat al-Faqih, rule by the Islamic jurist. His leadership sparked both admiration and fear worldwide. Supporters saw him as a spiritual leader standing against imperialism, while critics saw a strict theocrat. He ruled until his death in 1989, leaving a legacy that still shapes Iran today. So, reformer, revolutionary, or radical? Let's talk in the comments.
There you go. This is how this guy got back in power. We touched on it before. That kind of brings it back up. You know, and this one here talks a little bit more about it, and then I'll kind of go. I have a ton of these links, but I'll just play a couple because we're running short on time and we need to get this wrapped up soon. But there's so much more I got to get to. But here's another one with Ayatollah. You got to understand, and this guy was the one. This guy was the thorn in our side. This is the guy that we didn't think was going to come back, and he did, and he really effed things up for us and the world. And then he was seeking power through his religious visions, or whatever you want to call it. He felt that he, had the authority, the religious authority, to pretty much do what he wants. And it's interesting how the reason they want to wipe Israel off the map is because to fulfill the prophecy, they have to eliminate all the Jews and the nation state of Israel. This is why they keep going after Israel and Jews and the West, really. So they have a prophecy to fulfill. They have to. I mean, these people are so. If you look at it, they're fucking nuts, man.
Well, yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that really says it all right there. Because, I mean, it's almost as bad as, the Germans, but anyway, yeah, and it's disgusting. It's horrible. I mean,
yeah, if you really look at it, that it is. But all the people who follow, who have this religious belief, this is why religion can be so extremely dangerous, and has been. And that's why the vast majority of wars have been fought over religion, not just territory, but religion and their right to the land. And, their God is better than your God, the type of thing. And it's effed up. Big time.
It is. Big time.
Yeah. So let's listen to this one. And then going to that whole Nazi reference, I will play you a little clip of the Saudi prince just the other day talking about that, or a couple years ago, whatever it was.
Ruhollah Khomeini was a prominent religious and political leader who played a significant role in shaping the modern history of Iran. Born in 1902 in Iran, Khomeini studied Islamic theology and became a renowned scholar. He became actively involved in political activism, opposing the rule of the Shah and advocating for the establishment of an Islamic state. Khomeini's vocal opposition to the Shah's regime led to his exile in 1964. However, following the Iranian Revolution in 1979, Khomeini returned to Iran and became the country's supreme leader. He implemented Islamic principles and policies, including the enforcement of strict religious laws. Khomeini's leadership and his vision of an Islamic republic left a lasting impact on Iran and the wider Muslim world. He passed away in 1989, but his legacy continues to shape Iran's politics and society. Ayatollah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Trying to find it. I was going through all my tabs as I was playing, trying to find it. I'll probably run across it here, but it is interesting how the Nazi Hitler reference has been used by lots of people to describe this, and they're not wrong. Yeah, and that's exactly what he was talking about.
Is it a battle for Islam? Iran is not a rival to Saudi Arabia. Its army is not among the top 5 armies in the Muslim world. The Saudi economy is larger than the Iranian economy. Iran is far from being equal to Saudi Arabia.
But I've seen that you called the Ayatollah Khomeini the new Hitler of the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because he wants to expand. He wants to create his own project in the Middle East, very much like Hitler, who wanted to expand at the time. Many countries around the world and in Europe did not realize how dangerous Hitler was until what happened happened. I don't want to see the same events happening in the Middle East.
Does Saudi Arabia need nuclear weapons to counter Iran?
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit.
Everybody always says, "Oh, we're not interested."
Yeah.
Really?
Play that game. But
really,
you're gonna play that game.
Yeah, I think you're gonna probably want something. Just, I mean, not that you're gonna. There's people that will be aggressors. It's like some people, like they've used the analogy. Some people are allowed to carry guns, and people who are criminals who are not, because who's going to use them in the nefarious way more so than the other guy?
Exactly.
So yes, Iran and the Islamic regime of Iran should not have nuclear weapons. Should the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? I don't know, but who am I to say?
Yeah, I mean, I just see it going bad. You know what I mean, all the way around. Because again, it's the same thing. That would happen. If we were to do it, again, say somewhere, like retaliating against, one of our enemies.
Yeah.
And then, then they just go like this, and then we can really kind of forget about any kind of normal society after that.
Yeah, mutually assured destruction.
Right.
Well, it's okay. So I go back to the very rudimentary analogy of you got a big buff dude who works out, who's huge, walking down the streets. Nobody's gonna f with that guy, right? You got a little skinny, scrawny little dude. He probably gets picked on quite a bit more so, So basically, you're looking at, if Saudi Arabia has a nuke and India has nukes, and Pakistan has nukes, and we and China and Russia all have nukes. It's like we're all the big dudes walking down the street that nobody's going to mess with, and we know what we got. I'm not, I'll kick your ass, you kick my ass. We'll mutually kick each other's asses because we're about the same,
right?
And then you get somebody like, somebody like a North Korea, or somebody like an Iran, who's kind of this little guy, but now they have a gun, and we're just buff walking around. Now they have equaled the playing field, if you will.
Yeah.
In a sense, which is why they want it. And that's probably why Saudi Arabia would probably maybe want it as well. And it's just defense to protect yourself. Great. That's fine. I get it. I don't think we really should have nukes at all, of course, because,
even
did you
for
watch
protection.
Oppenheimer?
Right. Exactly.
Did you see how close they were to the reaction continuing and expanding and destroying our atmosphere, let alone, just what they were lucky that it didn't continue to expand and continue to grow. The reactions didn't continue on and on and on. It just kind of stopped and fizzled out at a certain point. But they didn't know, like, oh my God, that could have just expanded forever.
Yeah. We really
could have just
destroyed our own fucking planet. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, with the test bomb.
With the test, yeah.
Not even for any benefit other than we're just testing it, see how it works. I mean, watch Oppenheimer if you haven't seen it. It's a great movie. Very true to life. And you'll sit there and go, oh, shit, how close were we to destroying ourselves?
I don't think people know how close we were to destroying ourselves. And
we weren't. We weren't even had any idea how close we were until it happened. We're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Too late.
Exactly.
Almost. I mean, it's just, dude, it's just, look at that, you're like, holy shit. Anyway. So there's a ton of the history of Khomeini. And this basically, you're seeing it right here is how he and the Shah kind of had this feud going on. He kicks Khomeini out, then the Shah gets exiled or goes out of power, and then he gets exiled, and then Khomeini comes back, and it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Mm-hmm. The lesser of two evils at this point, really. So just trying to get the Iranian perspective from people who are, and Patrick Bet-David is from Iranian descent, and he talks about this briefly about why his family came here and stuff like that. And it just kind of shows you this is why, whether you agree with it or not, Trump kind of had to go in and help Israel with this whole thing and keep Iran from, getting the uranium fortified into a weapon and everything. And it's like, oh my God, we cannot let this rogue state. It's not the people of Iran, it's the mullahs and the ayatollahs who are the dangerous ones that we cannot let have this, because they will not stop at anything. And by the way, they will never negotiate. They'll lie to your face. Tell you, oh yeah, it's like this ceasefire we'll talk about here that just happened. And they're like, well, we didn't have any ceasefire.
Yeah, well, they're the ones.
Oh, you didn't?
Break
yeah.
Like, are you kidding?
Right. Like, oh, wait a minute. So Trump said there was a ceasefire, and that's really kind of his goal. Is like, you know what? We're going to pound the shit out of you right now, and then you're going to get up. You're going to try to save face a little bit. So you're going to throw little rockets back and like, don't, but you're really just kind of doing this thing.
Yeah.
Just blindly throwing punches to not look like you're a total pussy. You know, and not that they are. I'm just saying, but they have to save face. But the only way you negotiate with these types of groups, these extremist Islamic groups, are with fists of fury. That's really all you can do. They will not negotiate. They will lie through their teeth to get their way, and they will as soon as kill you. If you're a Jew, they'd sooner kill you as look at you.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like, I'd rather, work out something, and because I am against.
Oh, totally agreed. If you can, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm against like blowing them off the face of the planet, because I believe, just like that, I believe their people, deserve a decent life. You know what I mean, and a decent government.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's not happening right now, and a regime change is very, very, very necessary.
Yeah, and I don't know who that is, because we do talk about that real quickly here in a minute. We do talk about the Shah's son, who's now in his 70s, I think. Once he doesn't want to be the one in power, but he wants to kind of allow the people to choose their destiny, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing. So he's not quite like his dad was, but he's also seems to be a little more for people. And he says he doesn't want power. He's more for the people, and it's kind of interesting. But let's listen to what PBD talked about real quick, being of Iranian descent here, talking about this whole thing, because he brings his little perspective on it as well, and it's an interesting perspective as well.
I'm in America because of Jimmy Carter, because in 1977, December 31st, President Carter went to Iran and he had a toast with the Shah, and everything was great. It was, Iran's a friend of U.S., they're a friend of ours, and then they leave. Then Khomeini comes in to revolt his people, 9 million people, revolution in Iran. Shah's folks are calling Carter for help, Kissinger for help. At first they say, we got your back, don't worry about it. Last minute, Kissinger and Carter says, we can't help you. Nobody comes to help Iran. Iran falls. Shah's in exile. Khomeini comes in February. 9 years later, we escape Iran and go to Germany at a refugee camp and eventually come out here. So President Carter, because of him, I'm in the United States.